Hello, a very warm welcome from Berlin, where the leaders of Germany's two main parties are both claiming the right to govern after this unpredictable election race. But with the centre-left SPD emerging as the single biggest party, they've been quick to press home their advantage. In just the last hour, their candidate for Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, has been pushing the case to be the only party worthy of forming a coalition. Their lead over the centre-right Christian Democrats, that's the party of Angela Merkel, may be a slim one, but this is a party, the CDU-CSU bloc, which has just been handed its worst ever result in a national election. Now, according to the German Electoral Commission, the figures are like this. The centre-left SPD are on 25.7% of the vote. The centre-right Conservatives, that's CDU and CSU combined, on 24.1%. So to form a majority of seats in the parliament, either side would need at least two partners. And here the Greens and the Liberal Free Democrats become the kingmakers, if you like, in coalition negotiations. Our Europe correspondent Nick Beake has this report.
After a Sunday of election drama, they partied into the night. But today, Germans are waking up with no clear idea of how their new government will take shape. Olaf Scholz says the people have chosen him to lead them, but he wasn't ready to announce his arrival on the international stage just yet.
So have you got 10 seconds for the BBC? Just a message. Do you think you'll be sitting next to Boris Johnson soon, sir?
Although the Social Democrat candidate says he should lead the next coalition.
It's certainly going to be a long night, but it's also certain that many German citizens voted Social Democrat because they want a change in government and because they want their next Chancellor to be called Olaf Scholz.
At the Conservative headquarters, less happy faces. Disappointment that Angela Merkel's party had not done better. Yet the CDU candidate who wants to succeed her as Chancellor argued he could still run the country.
We had 16 years in Germany with Angela Merkel as Chancellor, and this is why we will try everything to form a government under the leadership of the CDU-CSU union.
For the Greens, they were celebrating a record result, but not as good as they hoped it could have been 6 months ago. But they and the pro-business Liberals will now play a key role in the business of trying to build a coalition.
We wanted more. We didn't achieve that, partly because of our own mistakes at the beginning of the campaign, my own mistakes. This time it wasn't enough, but the party has a mission for the future.
Well, we were warned that it would be a long, long night, and it certainly proved to be that way. But with every hour that's passed and more results have come in, they've grown in optimism here at the Social Democrats' headquarters. But they know the next phase ahead will not be straightforward.
You're here with us.
After 16 years of Merkel, Germans have sent a message at the ballot box. The trouble is, it's not exactly clear what it was and what it will mean for the country and further afield. Nick Beake, BBC News, Berlin.
Well, the SPD are wasting no time in putting their case forward to try and really gain the high ground, I think, in terms of looking towards a coalition government. I'm joined now by our Berlin correspondent, Damien McGuinness. Damien, just in the last few minutes, Olaf Scholz saying the Conservatives belong in opposition, and he has a rationale as to why he feels that he's the one to sort of lead the game now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the story we're looking at this morning, David, is 3 winners, 3 losers. So the 3 winners are centre-left SPD, that's Olaf Scholz, who is just speaking now, saying that he's won the election. That's what the polls show, that's what the results show, just by, a very small margin. The other two winners are the 2 smaller parties, Greens and Liberals. We'll talk about them in a minute. But if you look at the losers, the big loser of the night is the leader of the Christian Democrats, Armin Laschet, the Conservative leader. Now, he's done so badly because of how he's managed the campaign, but also he lacks the backing of his party and the population. His personal ratings are catastrophic. So he's not really wanted by many of his party, nor by the members, and it seems not by the electorate as well. In theory, he could still try and push for a coalition government. That's what he wants to do. In reality, if he hasn't got the backing of his party, and if people don't think he's a good fit anyway within the population, he hasn't got much of a mandate. He might talk tough right now, but I think it would be a tough fight for him to argue to people that he really is the one to form the next coalition.
It's interesting, isn't it? Some of the senior figures within that party already publicly saying, no, it can't be Laschet. So they're already looking to move on. And yet, Damien, when you look at the Free Democrats and the Greens, the leader of the Free Democrats has said, well, to be honest, I would sooner work with the CDU. So how does that all piece together?
Yeah, so the Liberals are pro-market, they are low-tax, pro-business. So their natural fit would be with a Conservative coalition. 4 years ago, that's where they were going. That was the big story with the Conservatives. Those coalition talks failed. The reason why the Liberals are now talking more openly, and yesterday they did an incredible thing by already saying we're going to talk to the Greens. That's unheard of, that the smaller junior parties would start saying, OK, this is the way we're going in coalition talks. Usually it'd be the winner that would open those negotiations. So that is unusual. The Greens have said likewise. That's because they know where the numbers have fallen, and the numbers have fallen to a centre-left-led governing coalition. And what we're talking about now is some very pragmatic negotiations. Already this morning in the media, both the leaders of the Liberals and the Greens were saying, OK, we're going to be pragmatic, we're going to see what direction we as a team can move forward. And these two parties, on the surface, they seem very different, one high tax, one low tax. In reality, they've been talking behind the scenes for years. They have set up this group which has been meeting for cocktails in a West Berlin bar since the last collapse of those talks between the two to figure out where they can have a meeting of minds. And they do have issues where they come together. They want modernisation, they want digitalisation. They're both open to migration, for example. So they have a lot of similarities, and it's those similarities they're going to try and focus on, really, I think.
OK, well, the SPD have made the first move on the chessboard, it would seem. We perhaps wait to see if Armin Laschet of the CDU makes the second move, possibly a defensive one, but the coalition talks are just beginning to take some shape.